Hi everybody, I'm here in my study. I'm making a will and I had the idea to put all my life into this giant Kahoot quiz, and the winner can have all my stuff. That way it goes to the person who cared about me the most, and it'll have questions like my favorite color, if I'm registered as an organ donor, and what this video's about. Here's a hint, look at the title. We all like Smiling Friends. It's Adult Swim's new golden child. It's spreading in popularity like an unattended fire in a Midwestern daycare, and especially thriving on Twitter, where all the episodes get leaked minutes after they release. It's fun, creative, and most importantly to me, it tells me that internet creatives can make their way to the absolute highest level of mainstream and thrive. And as we look deeper, we can easily see that the world of Smiling Friends might just be one of the most despicable, horrifying, and devastating ones that matches too close to home for comfort. Now, narrative-wise, Smiling Friends as a company, it makes almost zero sense, and I mainly say that from how the show unintentionally was making a world and company that we can speculate about, nitpick, and comprehend how it functions. First thing we gotta talk about is the known staff, the Smiling Friends themselves. At the lowest level, we got the basic staff members, other than the blue janitor dude that may or may not exist, and Alan, who's primarily responsible for checking insurance, company emails, generally everything behind the scenes, like for example, taking inventory based on him counting paper clips. And the most common position found among the Smiling Friends are the titular Smiling Friends, the caseworkers, those fellas who go out on the field and make their clients give the big boiling toothy grins as a part of their non-profit charity organization. Pim Pimling, Charlie Doppler, Squim, and based on our limited time with him, Smormu James Carter all worked on the field to varying success, each having major complications along with benefits for their ways of getting people to smile. Pim's mostly excessively optimistic and regularly blissful based on the hardships of the world, as we see during Desmond's day out, and methods toward him getting a smile being action. Charlie is a lazy bastard, however, he's a minimalist in his form, and sometimes that's all people need, like with 3D Squelton, or the hand guy covering his face with his big old hands. Squim's deceased and he died on the job, but initially his strategy just seemed to be toxic positivity. I mean, it works on a few cases, but there's a reason why he was let go in 2001, And then there's Smormu. He won popular vote to be added as the 5th Smiling Friend in a public stunt. He didn't win by electoral vote though, and then he died within the year he was added. He probably got done bit by a copperhead or something, that or blunt force trauma. Lastly, we got Tyler, who got fired, and I don't appreciate that he got fired. That was uncalled for. He brought everything together. So you'd think with all these professionals, they'd be coordinated for better efficiency, to get more people qualified for each respective client, to dispatch them the way that was intended, but nope. I'd argue the biggest flaw of Smiling Friends as an organization can be identified through the co-workers and their respective input. We got Mr. Boss and we got Glep, and though it's never explicitly shown, if you look long enough, you'll realize that we're dealing with two of the most unstable and unpredictable individuals that are just casually running a charity. To clarify, imagine our world but flat and in a dome and on fire at random times. Somehow this land is utter basic nonsense as much as it is pure normalcy, and it's simply because the creators thought it would be funny, like all good things are. I mean, if we look at the political end of this realm, the Smiling Friends are located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and within a few short years, entirely involuntarily, Pim and Charlie have to cheer up two separate presidents and are co-workers with a critter who's been associated with America's founding fathers. That really leads us to the main duo who co-own the Smiling Friends HQ that we're familiar with, Mr. Boss and Glep. Now, both are complicated and concerning at the same time, you know? So in 1992, Glep would save Mr. Boss from eradicating himself from this plane of existence. Wowee! This came from Mr. Boss suffering from a market crash, only recovering when he comes up with the idea of Smiling Friends, where Mr. Boss does the majority of the work and Glep's gonna rot in a beanbag chair, but there's something oddly effortless about their lives, and for different reasons. Since establishing the idea of Smiling Friends, Mr. Boss has recovered from the absolute lowest point of his life to a comfy life with his son, and easy access to the highest powers of the world. When President of the United States, President Jimble, is at his lowest leading up to the coming re-election, you know who the American government called immediately? Mr. Boss McSmiles. He has a manifesto for a reason. And then Mr. Frog, literally the most powerful and dangerous creature on the power scale and in canon, just allows Pim and Charlie to spend days at his estate to make him smile, simply because Mr. Boss and Glep know people at that level. Same thing happens to the Enchanted Forest. He builds the HQ with the help of cheap laborers from there, immediately gets summoned to help the princess of what we can only assume is a monarchy located in Philadelphia. The same thing happens to the Smurfs who reside in Pennsylvania, the Schmalugals, all these independent nations or functioning lands across North America summoned specifically the Smiling Friends, and I think Mr. Boss and his relationships have allowed the company to thrive and exist despite how illogical it should be. They only managed to make 126 people smile across a fiscal year. That's somehow profitable enough for this allegedly small business. And then the establishment of Frowning Friends, according to them, Mr. Boss drops $2.4 billion in value in days. And based on Charlie's purchase of the fake knife from Jumbo, that sets him back 600 USD. That's like our money. That's the real value of this time period. Even if this was a fake bit or hallucination from pure rage, he still has connections, and we can assume and confirm this based on his estimated socioeconomic influence due to his relationship with Brittany. Simply put, Brittany is Satan's daughter, and her whole deal is to do demon stuff while he's in his gamer station ordering DoorDash and playing Rust on his setup that's literally unholy. Her whole deal is getting major world powers, marrying them, and inheriting all their assets after sucking them dry, sucking them of their life. No, not that other kind, and no, not that other kind. Brittany perceived Mr. Boss as pretty impactful, at the same levels as Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne, Napoleon, and Franklin D. Roosevelt. Good old FDR. So there's just gotta be like a mountain of shit on him that we simply don't know enough of, and we can only make assumptions based on his decades of business prowess. Even then, he's still hanging on to this small business that makes people smile. So I mean, he could just also be money laundering. This could be a tax deduction scheme. There's a lot of possibilities. When we look at Gleb, it's possibly worse. Gleb spawned into our world roughly 1700 years ago, and since then he's been present in some of the world's most crucial points in history. He was there in Rome land. He contracted and spread the Black Plague. He was cool with the founding fathers of the United States. He was cool with Ben Franklin. And then in the modern day, he lives in a beautifully large estate with his lovely foreign wife, Marge Simpson, and all he has to do is dick around on his iPad and play like Temple Run and watch YouTube movies. But even with all this nonsense lined up, even knowing the context of the show and how this universe produces humor out of every foreseeable situation, there seems to be something responsible for the endless suffering of each of these characters that all of them have to endure. So I'm gonna propose this, the funny principle. In the world of smiling friends, reality seems to bend at the benefit of what is the funniest outcome of every day. For example, Shrimp's Odyssey follows the simple objective of Shrimp somehow trying to find a way to regain some form of love, specifically from Shrimpina. For Pim, that means getting back his beloved Shrimpina, and for Charlie, that means setting him up with someone new. Now, an entire episode is about Pim being extremely conflicted about developing a crush over some woman when he's supposed to be helping Shrimp get back together with who he thinks is Shrimpina. And not only is this not Shrimpina, but then her name is Jennifer. She immediately folds for Shrimp in front of Pim and at his expense, and it's only because it's funny. In fact, every time the world is hard on Pim, him being put in these absolute positions of humiliation and personal suffering, the universe just thinks it's funny. The same thing applies with the majority of the deaths found across the series. The only reason Charlie's grandma is in hell is because it would be funnier for her to be there after she said damn when that rotten burglar shotgunned her husband. The entire idea behind Mr. Frog falls under these principles. Like, it's hysterical having this incomprehensible beast of power, one who has been shown ending lives with no consequence. He ate a baby, able to run and win a presidential position regardless. He gains all of the highest honors feasible for a person, only for him to buckle at his justifiably emotionally distraught father for the absence of his son, especially with the loss of Mr. Frog's mother to cancer. It's because it is funny. And personally, the mindset that things will either end up good for you or be funny is a terrific way to look at life. Is it healthy to expect that life will harm you at your own expense because it'll be the funniest outcome? My therapist says, hell no, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. But my heart says yes. The way this is normalized gives me the utmost worry for the cast that we follow, along with how abnormal a lot of everyday citizens and life is to physically contort. There is at least one instance per episode of creatures being able to embark or move at breakneck pace. It's inconsistent who has these skills, but like Mr. Boss and Alan have it, for example. Those little demon children that fill up Glep like one of those stretchy LeBrons as a torture method have it. And then we have the whole situation regarding Spamtopia. So I mean, just like other mini empires found on flat earth United States, we learn about this place when Mr. Boss drives down to where it is located in the desert and witness the absolute horrors found here. In Spamtopia, there is almost zero restriction on how absurd life can be. People constantly die. Once again, Mr. Boss had access to a major leader. No idea how he casually does it. It was like on a forum or emailed, just like how I have no idea about his growing boy, Jason. Friendly reminder that Mr. Boss canonically owned 1/4 of hell due to Britney's death. Anything for the bit, I guess. Spamtopia, even as a concept, is one of the fastest enablers for the sheer chaos found in Pennsylvania. I haven't mentioned it, but the planet's mostly dominated by two major species, humans and critters. We got some other things that are common, like demons, aliens, animals. Sometimes objects are casually alive, although both sides can look as silly and characterized as you can expect a cartoon character to be. The people of Spamtopia are more or less a subcategory that go all the way in on the stress inducers of everyday life. They can warp reality, they can go real fast, and eye contact's punishable by death. Now, based on Daniel and Doug Psychotic, who, by the way, their mother is believed to be Spanish, it's basically confirmed that they're considered at the same level of the rest of the populace. More so, it seems like they're locked to their land and rarely leave. I imagine Spamtopia and their populace being like Amish people, and based on the fact critters have coexisted with humans for thousands of years, we can also assume that the frantic, jittering, nightmare strength and speed the characters can suddenly obtain can come from something related to his Spanish descent. So maybe that's a genetic thing. Maybe it's like something that can only be controlled based on Spamtopian dominant genes. Maybe that could connect to the funny principle. And even then, with all of this, you gotta ask, is the world cool with all of this? I mean, for every person who's casually accepted that this is what life is gonna be like forever, it's safe to assume there's an ever-growing army of people discontent with where life is, knowing that at any moment aliens can spawn in or 50 cars can start running over a single person. Charlie's continuously expressed how he hates how extreme some of his cases are, especially more than Pim, who's been overwhelmed by attacks targeted to harm him, to exclusively just make him worse. Like Mr. Frog, who just why did he do that? Why did he remove his eyes? That was not nice. But there's been clients like Mole Man and Silly Samuel who are in their positions because they're drained from the world surrounding them. For Samuel, he wants to be taken seriously, but that wouldn't be funny. It's only funny when he gets perceived as a prophet, and Mole Man has a controversial penis. War! In the background of the years we've spent in Smiling Friends, there's been 2 wars that we know of based on our basic world history. There's the Critter War and the antics of Blingostan. They could be the same war, but we all know that Alan mentions wanting updates on it, and the staff about their knowledge in American politics. The Critter War could have technically happened in the past. The only known confirmation we really have of it comes from a YouTube video uploaded 2 years prior to the events of the episode. I mean, there's plenty of those time overlaying videos that have been made for decades where they just like recap previous wars. Yeah, you know, like alternate history hub shows up in my YouTube feed, even though like videos might be like half a decade old. That's how the algorithm works. That makes sense. So the Critter War doesn't have to be a recent thing. Maybe like Charlie's uncle was a veteran with PTSD, would line up with the realism of Smiling Friends, would coincide with his usage of sleeping pills, and potentially his choice to drive intoxicated, leading to the death of a family, because we still gotta deal with the regular bad antics that can happen to people. You can still die from terminal disease, just as much as you can perish from an arrow firing from Renaissance Man or Eden in 0.4 seconds. The fact of the matter is that the Pennsylvania can allow a mustard packet to come onto you just as much as you can be transformed into a mother spider. I do hold concerns to the actions of President Blingo of Blingostan. When President Jimble almost shat himself as he declared Blingostan an eternal ally, it was met with a ton of controversy. It even led to Charlie admitting that he knows how sick President Blingo is, immediately cutting to Blingostan's genocide on an opposing race of people. In one of the most sickening moments, we witnessed the Blingostan military instantly killing a small community of innocent critters in exactly 4 seconds. So first off, we don't know the context or reasoning of this in the world. I'm sure the political complications of Smiling Friends are bound to be complicated based on the amount of world leaders we've seen so far. Like the first couple of presidents have lawn chairs and gaming chairs in their backyard, and this was in the 1700s. We don't know anything, but I want to talk about how quickly this military was rolled out. There was zero hesitation to attack the land and end the lives of these innocents, therefore implying a modernized war correlating with the nations allied with Blingostan, along with how the war could be significantly more dangerous. The level of aggression found even among the civilians could be devastating to everyday life. Consider the Halloween blackface incident, where a forest demon was ripped apart and eaten like a frantic chimp, or honestly this whole montage with Spamtopia. Pain and death are treated with the same amount of extremity today, while also being completely minuscule in plenty of situations. Desmond goes an entire day about to end his life, and yet the demise of the Schmalugals is practically ignored. We don't even know what these flying freaks are that Charlie snaps the neck of. But honestly, I could not tell you. I could not tell you. I'm pretty sure the only time this entire cast was shaken from a death comes from after Bill Nye's song about the importance of death, and then the lightning bolt, he's dead. Bill Nye's dead. As a matter of fact, it's a miracle that after all this time, the main cast has been able to stay alive. Like, we have knowledge of 2 previous employees dying on the job, a health inspector withering to sand, dozens of casualties being witnessed. Now, the majority of the cast has been able to survive the funny principle by acting as straight men. men when necessary, knowing it would be funnier to normalize the pure insanity going on around them. Glepp ignores the pain of the world because the funniness benefits them. His wife is beautiful. He's happy. Mr. Boss becomes a part of the problem to continue his life of continued luxury with a beautiful forest cabin and easy access for massages on his keister on a tropical coast. But the remaining employees are simply just put out as everyday people. And in that case, it's really a miracle in this world that any of them were able to get any schmickle of normalcy. I just worry for my boys. Pim's only a single connection away from
Count Chocula.
He's hated and mocked by most of his friends, his family, seen firsthand what the slightest mistake for a world leader entails for them in terms of instant death or torment, regardless of the unreliable President Jimble. I think we witnessed this world and shrug it off, laugh, giggle, kick our feet at Brambito the pirate or whatever, but it says a lot. It's reflective of our world if Mother Nature snorted Fun Dip with evil, malicious intent, which lines up with the Mother Nature quite literally killing little critters and litter bugs without hesitation. And the worst part is we're gonna see more of this. There's so much more we don't know of in the future seasons. We're only at season 3 right now. We can only guess it could get worse. Like Alan's father is practically a duplicated version of him who gets bird fed at 24 years old. This is a 24-year-old man. Glepp's roamed the world unable to fit in as he's partially responsible for history's most devastating moments. Charlie's a bum with a woman too good for him. Pim's always 14 seconds away from something kicking him in the face with the amount of health risks he's faced. You know that thing where like the sun could explode at any given moment and we wouldn't know? We'd be minding our business, cherishing the world around us, maybe at a picnic with the outer family as the grill's going on with hot dogs. You would be looking at the world, appreciating what life has brought you with a delicious bottle of lemon starry, that lemon starry drink that looks like Charlie's head. It's very cute. And you're about to play a game of hacky sack with your Uncle Marcus, who's very tall and very handsome. Yeah, it'd be like that. Now that is something far more prone to occur here. The Smiling Friends, all life for that matter, are able to have everything they've worked for cease to be whenever. We're not accounting for the devastating losses replicated in our world. The Brazil scenario where the gang was unable to properly attain housing on their vacation only for it to end with a plane crash, two relatively equal inconveniences, or the fact that you can have people living in your walls, or infestations with a small species that'll crucify anyone that provokes them. I'm scared. I'm scared for the good people of Smiling Friends as they try to create genuine smiles in a world that wants nothing more to giggle at their torment, to make innocents suffer or uncomfortable with as many silly or wacky characters as possible. But you can't give up here. You've seen firsthand what the nihilists are like. Those guys are dorks in this world. I don't want to be associated with a nihilist. Ew. It's baffling as much as it is too real, and in the end, it's for the bid. It was always for the bid, and it will always be for the bid. Life here's a hilarious mountain of torment, and that is very, very funny. You know, seeing the amount of sheer pain and destruction found across the land of smiles really does give a perspective of life. The thought that we're always at the mercy of fate puts a new concept of our existences to light. It's in that case where that you can acknowledge that everything that you've gotten to at this point of your life could be taken away just as quickly, if not instantly. But not to me though. Like, what are the odds of a giant meteor crashing down through the ceiling, turning me into a pile of ash before I could even react? That'd sure be unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah, it would be.